Good afternoon, Atomic Smashers and fans worldwide. Welcome to another edition of Studying the Armbars with me. I think this is a great video of Kron getting armbar, and what's kind of nice is this will be no gi. I have not covered any videos really of no gi to get the armbar, so let's get started. Okay, this is just showing. It's funny, the actual video to me looks like a video game, but it's not. It's an actual, I think it was Kron's first MMA fight. There's Hickson, right behind Kron. I wish we had more videos of Hickson. I might view some of those as well in the future, Hickson's MMA fights. Okay. I don't know if you noticed, Kron is actually taking a little bit of damage. This was his first MMA fight. I think he's gotten better, but I think he lost his last one. He lost one by decision. I hope he doesn't get enthralled with the stand-up like most jiu-jitsu folks do, and then what winds up to him get knocked out. He should stick to what he knows of jiu-jitsu. Manage the distance, don't get hit, and take the guy down. Hickson was a master of that. Hickson, when he fought multiple fights in one night, maybe fight 3 or 4. And if you looked at when he was done for the night, if you looked at Hickson, it looked like he hadn't even been touched. Yet as all his opponents were black and blue in the face. There's actually even one match where Hickson's in the room waiting for the last fight, and Pedro Sauer's in the room with him, and he's going to fight, I think, some Japanese guy, and the Japanese guy was doing leg locks, and he had taken a lot of damage, and his face was so bruised, battered, black and blue, and Pedro's telling Hickson, get in there, just punch him in the face. He'll surrender. He's so badly bruised, and Hickson's like, no, I don't want to hit him in the face. He's too badly bruised. And I think in that fight, Hickson did not punch him in the face. Hickson submitted him. Anyway, so here, I guess eventually he'll get the guard. I think this is important. The comment here is important. Is that Kron maintains posture, control before jumping guard. I think that's a common theme even before submissions. The controls, right? Lots of times when we think of a submission like an armbar, we try to rush to get to the armbar and try to making sure we have the controls in place to get the armbar. And it's the same thing in many positions of jiu-jitsu. Folks tend to focus less on the controls and more on the submission. So I think the true masters, they focus more on the controls and actually less submissions. They're actually another story with Rickson. I forget who he was talking to, but there was this fighter, Shudo fighter from Japan, and he was talking about all the submissions that he had in his arsenal. And Rickson's like, "How many do you need?" Rickson, if you analyze Rickson's the rolls that are his rolling that's posted on YouTube, there's a few of them. He's using the closed guard in the bottom, and he tries to go for arm bars, goes for leg triangles. Those are a couple of his main submissions. And then if he gets on top side control, he goes for a spinning arm bar. He doesn't really have a large selection of submissions. I'm sure he knows them all. But if you notice one thing, he's a master of controlling the opponent. And so let's continue on. Okay, so Kron there just pulled closed guard, and he's trying to go open his legs, I would assume, for an arm bar. When he pulled him in, here we go over this again, this is very subtle. Let's see if I can stop at the right time. Okay, right there, he pulled him in, you can't see, the cage is blocking it. But when he pulled him into his guard, and it's not, well, yeah, I think that's his foot, so it's kind of was in the process of closing there. But he had control of his head. Now, let's see what happens. Okay, so he closed it. Okay, so when he looked like he tried to climb his leg up to go for an armbar, the opponent was able to posture up. Why? Because he didn't have control of his head. And it's easier said than done in no gi. With a gi, you can actually grab the collars. I guess to make a long story short, what I'm saying is that you need to have the controls in place before you go for the armbar. And one control is you got to control the opponent's posture, his head, as well as you want to isolate an arm, among other things that we're going to cover during this video. And Kron was smart, because when he realized that he didn't have control of the opponent's head, he didn't insist on going for the armbar. He came back and closed his guard. Why? Because he didn't want him to escape out of his closed guard. He'll work on getting the controls that he needs. So that shows you Kron's experience in the closed guard, as well as going for arm bars. And what folks must realize, that an arm bar, like many other submissions in the closed guard, require you to open your guard. So many times you're using the closed guard to get control of the opponent, to break his posture down, to get the controls you need. Then you must open your legs. And that's why you need the controls, right? Because the legs must open to perform the submission. And if you don't have the controls in place, he'll start posturing up and getting away. So it's critical that you understand that you use the closed guard to control the opponent, to get your grips, to control his head, to control his posture, right? And then you open your legs. And all too often, so many folks are opening their legs without the controls, and that's why they have such a low percentage completion for the submission, because they don't have the controls, and the opponent winds up escaping. Oh, okay, see there, because it's a fight. The opponent came down, I guess, to hit him, whatever, or Kron was using his legs to pull him in. Regardless, he got control of his head. Right away, Kron went back, blocking the punches, gained control of the head. As we know in this video, he's going to go for another armbar. So he says, you can see Kron is controlling the head again. Broken his posture down, and his legs right now are open. Right? You couldn't keep them closed. So let's move on. Okay, so there he closed his legs. He's still got control of the head. Okay, good. I grabbed it at the right moment. So, with Kron having his posture, if you notice, controlled the opponent's head, Kron is on his right hip, and he's elevated up, shifted out his right hip, so his left hip is free, and he sort of like did a shrimp to get his hip free, and he elevated his hips to climb his legs up behind the opponent. This is very important, the elevation of the hip, because if you think about it, it does two things. It puts the weight on the opponent. Secondly, it makes your leg longer, right? If you're just flat on the mat, which most folks are when I'm watching them doing arm bars, their legs are shorter than the person who's elevated. It only makes sense, right? Because the hip is up. And what's very important, the leg that Kron has over the shoulder also prevents the opponent from really smashing too much into him, because that leg there is preventing him from coming forward, and he can use it. He can push back off of it. He can use both his legs. He can do it both ways. He can control him, push him back or push him in now, because he has it close. Now I have to admit, I have short legs. Depending on who I'm trying this with, sometimes I can't close my feet. It's okay. I just keep them close together as possible. And if you notice, you do a lot of your closed guard with your knees, not necessarily with your feet, so it's not a big deal. I'm not really stressed out if I close my legs, because I use my knees to do that, the pulling and pushing. And another thing, which we can't see here, I do believe the opponent's arm, just the nature of the fight, when he was punching, his arm is at an angle going this way towards on an angle, so that would allow it to free up the hip. If it's not, he could push it over Kron. And another important component is position of the heads. This is so very important. If the opponent takes his head and moves away from Kron's leg over the shoulder, then Kron is going to stay on his side and go for more of a belly down armbar, or maybe even Americana. If this opponent's head winds up going to Kron's left hip, Kron will go flat and we'll try for a close, well, what I'm going to call it, we'll try for the closed guard armbar. So Kron's head will be here, the opponent's head will be over here, and Kron's hip will be out here. So you can actually play, there's a reaction action here with the armbar. Is actually playing with two different kinds of armbars. No different than Harder Gracie, no different than Hickson, no different than Carlos Machado, no different than the Gracies of how they do this. They get high, and there's two armbars based upon the reaction of the opponent. So what he'll do, if he goes too far this way, he's on his Colombia's right hip, he uses this, the leg he has over the shoulder will bite down over the opponent's back so he can't get up, and then he'll have that arm isolated for the armbar. If the opponent moves his head to Kron's left, then Kron will go flat, and he'll have the angle for the closed guard armbar. So let's continue. There, I thought that was some. Let's see if I can pause it. Again, you could see this right here. Kron is more on his side. His hip is elevated, and the leg is over his shoulder. Now, this leg, the leg on the armpit, also plays an important role, because he can use that to push the opponent to the corner as well. So they both play a role, the legs coming up high. Yep. Again, I talked about it before. The elbow has to go across the midline, the arm drag, right? Basically, sort of like an arm drag, shoulder drag, whatever you want to call it. But get across the midline, because what that will do is that will free up Kron's hip. He'll be able to get his hip out and get his leg over his shoulder. If you notice, you have to have his posture broken down. And it only makes sense, right? If he's standing up, how are you going to get your knee over his shoulder? You won't be able to. And if Kron just stays flat, he still won't be able to do it. He has to arch his hips to get the knee over the shoulder and the leg biting down the back as the other leg under the other armpit bites down. So it's like a closed guard, one part closed guard over the shoulder, one part the normal way of closing the guard, right? And so that's critical. Now, yes, he will climb his legs up as high as he can. Here's a good analogy. Instead of climb, I'd say walk. What I do is what I've really started to get realize is that, and it's strange how this works. You first get your leg over the shoulder, bite down. It's still not. You still won't be able to. Your legs probably not behind enough. So what I'll do is then I'll walk. I'll take one foot, walk it up a little bit higher. The next foot. Maybe the next foot, just a few steps up his back with my leg, and it's amazing how then you can come easily over the head. And I like to make, again, emphasize this. Look at the position of the heads now. Kron's head is to the outside of the opponent's head, and his head, the opponent's head, is more migrating to his left hip. As now, so that's why it's the what we're going to call the closed guard armbar, high armbar, instead of belly down. If the opponent's head was on more to the left of Kron's head, then it'd be a belly down, and then Kron would go back to his hip, on his hip, to get the belly down. In this case, the opponent's head is on the left side of Kron's head, where Kron's knee is going to come over the shoulder. If you notice right away, when Kron got the leg over, he went right for the head for control. And look what the opponent did. The opponent's basing on his leg, and now he's going away from the leg that came over the shoulder because he's afraid to close guard armbar. So then Kron is getting on his side because he's going to he'll go for the belly down position, where he'll take that leg and come around the back and control the opponent's weight with this leg. Will then come around the back, squeeze down on his back, go for belly down. Let's see. Here's a perfect example, right? Here's Kron. His head went away. It's on this side of Kron, right? So Kron's elevated. He's on his side. This leg is coming down across his back, and he's trying to isolate the arm. Either he'd go belly down armbar, or he then bring his hips in and pull back if the opponent's arm is bent, and just use and actually land an Americana. So again, it depends on reaction to the opponent, right? So if the opponent's head then ever winds up going the other way over Kron's left hip, then Kron's going to go more flat. His hips still going to be elevated. He's going to be flat on his shoulders more, and he's going to go for more of an armbar. I'll call it closed guard armbar just for argument's sake, okay? There. Do you see what happened? The opponent transitioned and tried to now go in the other direction, and Kron reacted beautifully, and he went more flat on his shoulders. His hips are still raised, and now he's taking the armbar, the closed guard armbar, where he'll take his left leg. Now he's got him, and you see this. First of all, this right leg under his shoulder will make it difficult for him to come back because his hips are raised, and he's using that to push him over there, right? And the leg on top. And it's very interesting if you think about it. I always think of base. Where doesn't the opponent have base? To the right back hip. He has a base more here. He has a base here. But he actually doesn't have bases behind him. So Kron will take this right leg and he'll be pushing it towards the opponent's back right hip. Right? The opponent's in big trouble now. And if you notice, he has the arm isolated. He has it isolated. He can't get his posture. The legs are over. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kron's going to go up and grab his head. Again, he may transition his arms, switch his arms, and maybe he'll grab for the opponent's head again. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. To better control his posture, because it looks like he's going to try to posture up. Let's see. Okay, so again, because he didn't have really control of the opponent's head, that he tried to bring it down. But Kron is very flexible. Kron tried to come down. Kron was flexible, and he was able. Looks like is able to get that leg over. That's very skilled. I don't have that flexibility, but what I can do is I would have tried to probably took more of my time and put a frame on the opponent's head so he couldn't come down with it and control his head. And then I would have brought my knee over. And that would have prevented that from happening. Okay, so then Kron spun under him and went for the, sometimes they call it the Russian armbar, where he spun under him. And then went belly down again and got belly down, and that's how he finished the fight. Maybe we want to take a look at that one more time. Okay, so there he is. You see it, and he got the leg under. Now what he did is spin under him. As you can see, the opponent also, by doing that, the opponent really doesn't have a base here. So by him spinning under him a little bit, the opponent's going to fall. He has no base over here at all. And so he'll fall. And then Kron will have the armbar. That way. And when he does the armbar, he's also got his leg held. That's fancy, right? So the main thing, too, is what folks don't realize, that when you go belly down armbar, you don't want to be belly down. Because if you go belly down, it'll restrict your movement. What you really do is you want to stay more on your side when you belly down, so that you can shoulder escape away and use your hips, and then you have a large range of movement to break the arm by the elbow. And that's what he did. He just spun under, then went to his side, and then actually had a hold of the leg, which I didn't say. It's hard to see in here how he did that, and then he finished with the armbar. Okay, let's see again. Okay, so one of that helped him spin. Okay, that's how that worked. So he underhooked the leg that was close to him. That helped him, gave him more spinning power. And he just held on to it, and then the opponent fell, and that's how he got in that position. That was a tremendous basic armbar technique. I don't believe it gets any better than that. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I hope to have others soon. Okay, take care, bye.